Leatrice and Renee Shaw. I first started hearing about them when I visited their parents, the Shaws, in Schenectady, New York. In a home where they had grown up hearing about Baba. I told them that they're probably the only people that the Savas who've known about Baba their whole life and are over 25. They're also two of the very few or only ones who met Baba when they were teenagers. And so I'd like to start with both of you, asking how old you were when you first met Baba, and and tell us a little bit about your life.
Sorry, how old you are. We already know the 29, sorry.
I'd like to ask them what they remember first about knowing about Baba in Schenectady, hearing so much about him when they met him from their parents, and not being able, but not like many children, many Baba families, not being able to see him for a long time and waiting to see him until he finally came to America in 1952.
There were 3 of us children, and our parents had Baba meetings in their home, and we were packed off to bed and not allowed to attend the meetings. But for me, it was Baba's pictures, and it was Baba's atmosphere in the house, and the way my parents lived. They were certainly a role model for us, unbeknownst to us. Because as children, you're quite unconscious of all those things. It's only years later that, on reflection, I could realize how much preparation was actually going on, that Baba was working behind the scenes with us to draw him to himself. And his love was always there, but he was working to make us conscious of it.
Did Baba ever mention you in letters he would send to your parents?
Yes, he did. And we just can quote from one of the letters that Margaret Crass wrote that Baba dictated in 1945. In the 40s, Baba sent us letters. And we were children. We were always saying to our parents, when is Baba coming? When are we going to see him and meet him? And hoping soon was always the answer. And Margaret wrote, and Mama directed her to write, and she said, to the 2 fingers and the thumb. That's how she addressed us. And she said, you have no idea how beautiful Baba's hands are. And you will meet him soon, and Baba sends his love to you. So it was very encouraging for us.
Who was the thumb?
We don't know who's who. But we're on his hands, in his hands. And through the years, Baba gave orders to my parents, and we weren't allowed to participate, except that we cooperated through the month-long fast, the month-long silence.
Wasn't there a time when your father was asked not to touch any women, including his own daughters?
Yes, he had several instructions, and one of them was that not to touch any female over the age of 7. Renee was just under 7, and I was 7.
Were you jealous?
I don't think it occurred to us.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. Our dad used to wrestle with us.
Yeah, we used to jump on and wrestle with it. So I wanted to participate, and so I was, because I refrained from wrestling with him, jumping on him and hugging him. And I didn't feel badly for missing that contact, because I felt I was doing what Baba wanted. And
I know our kids growing up, they felt a little different when they went to school. They weren't quite into what everyone else was into. They knew that their family was a valid family, and there was something, whether various, of course, parts of their life they felt they understood differently who Baba was, but they did feel a little different than the other kids. Did you experience any of that?
Yes. I like it.
I used to bring my girlfriends home and they'd ask, who's that person from the photo? And I would say it's a very dear friend and family. And this one girlfriend never asked any more questions. And later, in her later years, she came about the father through another person.
I remember you used to tell people that Baba was a godfather.
Yeah, I used to keep a picture of Baba on my desk at work.
I used to tell some of my school friends about Baba and quickly found out that I suffered a lot of bad remarks about it, and that made me feel badly. And even some nuns visited our house wondering what all this was about. I think it got back to the parents and so on. And so I became afraid to tell people about Baba. And now look what happened.
So, the time finally came that Baba did come. And soon actually happened.
Yes.
And you met Baba. Can you tell us about that?
We drove down from Schenectady, New York, and we rented a place in Myrtle Beach. And our first appointment with Baba was May 10, 1952, and it was Mother's Day. And we drove to the center and parked our car by the kitchen and waited at the car. And Francis Grafazon had his first interview, and he came out and came up to us and said he was directed to immediately return to Australia. Of course, and so we were invited to come over to the lagoon cabin and sit on the bench and wait until Baba called us in.
I was afraid that I wouldn't have any feelings about Baba because my parents loved him so much. I was afraid I would be like a stone. And I was, as we sat on the bench, I was first in line. When the door opened, I thought, oh, I'll let my mother go first. And she did, and Baba embraced her. And I was second, and Baba embraced me. And no thoughts were in my mind. And Baba, in this embrace, I just melted into his arms, and I felt I've come home to my real home at last, because I had such a spiritual thirst for him that all of it was gathered up into his arms. And each of us were embraced by him.
I was the baby of the family, so I was the last one. But while sitting on the bench, and someone came out, and I got a glimpse of Baba for the first time. And at that moment, I had a recognition of Baba from 2 dreams that I had as a preschooler. And at this time, I started weeping. So,
did you remember those dreams previously? Or
oh yes, no, very vivid dreams. And I was the last one to be embraced by Baba. And as Baba embraced me, I just lost all consciousness of self, and all I could feel was complete joy. And I don't know how long this lasted, but I presently found myself on a couch, sitting on a couch, and the room was very quiet, and I believe Adi was interpreting, but I didn't even see him. I was trying to get my mind together to hear what they were saying, and Leatrice can quote what Baba said to us.
He acted like an old family friend, and he said to my parents, "How do I look?" And they said, "Oh, wonderful, Baba," something like that. And then he said, "Oh, yes, the same." And so it was a very, very loving, intimate time. This long-awaited interview with Baba. We were all in such joy and happiness. And Baba settled the score for me. He turned to Renee and me and he said, "They haven't met me before." He said, "They love me." It was, Baba just filled us up and beyond, overflowing with his love and his light and his beauty. Was more than we could really assimilate, because you had no way of expecting anything like that. It's beyond any kind of superlative. And I found that inside of me I had a better place of knowing something than up here. And I knew that Baba, even as a child, I knew that I wanted to follow Baba and love Baba. But this was a whole different ballgame when you meet him, because there's nothing else. Baba's your whole existence. And Baba said, "God in heaven is happy that you have come." To all five of us. And I was so surprised that you could make God in heaven happy.
Did he tease you at all?
When I reflected on afterwards, when I first saw Baba, he appeared as he looked in 1935. And my mother was 5 months pregnant with me when she met Baba in 1934. And then during one of our family meetings, Baba gestured to my mother and to me, and my mother said, "Oh, you reminded me that I was carrying Renee when I first met you."
And since we're both together at this point in the interview processes, and we both had the same time with Baba, we'd like to tell you about the question Baba asked us. And I was writing in shorthand, and it was very, very difficult to concentrate because I couldn't think, and there was just too much. Baba is just so magnificent, you just can't take him all in. And Baba said, just casually, "Would you do anything I asked you to do?" He was sitting here and we were on his right. "Would you do anything I asked you to do?" And we both looked at him and we were not shocked. It was just quite a normal question to us. We said, "Yes, Baba."
I said yes. And then Baba said, "Yes or just yes?" And I was trying to think, yes or just yes? It sounds like yes, yes. Oh, he means I I said, really, yes. That's what I said. You really need it. Yes.
And then, so when I said my first yes, I was thinking, I knew I had read about the Manzilli meeting days and how difficult it was to not to follow his orders, but that his orders were difficult. And so I was thinking, later on I'll think about how hard the orders might be. So when he said, is it yes or just yes? I said, oh, the heck with it. And yes, Baba. And so we both said, really, yes, Baba. We knew we were signing our life away. And then Baba turned to my father, Darwin, and said, isn't that right, Darwin? They will obey me without hesitation. And he seemed very pleased and very happy. Later on, we figured out that when Baba repeats something several times, he's making it a fact for you, so that in the future you will be able to obey him. Then Baba, while he was still asking through the yes part, he said, would you jump in the lake? The lake is right there at Myrtle Beach. And I thought, oh, I can swim. And then he said, with the alligators. Well, that's more serious. What's the worst case? I might die. Okay, if that's what Baba wants, I'm happy with it. This is how Baba works with you. How sure you are of your connection and what you're very happy to do for Baba.
I wasn't thinking all those things. I just said yes, and I didn't have to go through all the... It's easier.
But did he offer you the alligators also?
Yes, he offers that.
Yeah. I just said yes unconditionally.
So then he said, I am in the snakes, and I'm in the alligators, and I'm in the deer. I'm in everyone and everything. And if you knew that, you would not be afraid of anything or be upset by anything. And I think that's why he prompted me to take shorthand and to get that down. Because that's something I can never forget and haven't stopped working on it. So that was very important. We had 2 interviews, one day apart or in close succession with Bob. But we wanted to tell you this part since we're both together and could make comments on that session.
Did you see Bob again in 1952?
Yes, we saw him several more times at Myrtle Beach.
Remember a time Bob liked to tease people? Did you see that?
I don't recall that he actually did, well, not at that time. In 1956 in San Francisco, we had come back from Muir Woods, and Baba was getting into the car and going somewhere, and he wanted us to lean into the back seat so he could touch us and give his love to us. And so when I reached over, my face was forward then, and he pinched my face like that, squeezed, and it hurt. And he was really happy to give me that kind of pinch. It's sort of like teasing a kid. But that's the closest it came as far as what we call teasing.
I think with me, one hot day in 56 in Myrtle Beach, I was holding interviews, and a group of us were hot, and we thought it would be a good idea to go down to the beach and go swimming, since we weren't scheduled for any interviews with Baba. So my dad drove the truck, the old Army truck, and we all piled in the back and went swimming. And when we got back, we were scolded by Baba because we left.
I don't remember that.
Without his permission.
I don't remember that one.
How did you feel? Did you feel sorry?
Yeah. You shouldn't leave the master's presence for your own pleasure.
There were times like that when quite a few people had times when they wished they had made other choices.
Well, I remember reading in the book how they left Baba alone in St. Mark's Word.
Yes. Well, in 1956, in I think it was Los Angeles, I didn't know where to get breakfast. And so I went out down the street to a drugstore by myself and had breakfast. And when I got back, I didn't know what was happening. And you were up on the balcony calling to me. And you said, "Come quickly, Baba's calling us." And we ran up to the room, and Baba had all these people already in the room, and they were waiting for us and a few other stragglers who weren't there to even hear being called. And I was mortified. Then after we sat down, Baba said, "I was going to tell you something, and now I will have to wait till 700 years." I felt badly.
Now, the next time you met Baba, that was when he came back in 1956. And you were both a little older. And he took a tour around. Did you go on the whole tour around with Baba?
Oh, yes.
All around the States.
Well, we were on the same plane, airplane. So there were almost 50 people on a chartered flight.
And you were both a little older, a little more.
We were in our 20s by this time.
Yes. And so you were able to. You must have. What was the difference meeting him again when he came back again? You were a little more on your own by that time. Was there any difference, or was it just?
I think we all realized that in 1952 we felt like a closely knit family. And that Baba was our big, master. And we realized that more and more people were coming to Baba, and that we wouldn't get as much personal time with Baba. And that's in 1956, the interviews with family were less. In 1958.
Nevertheless, the times we did have with Baba were very personal, but we might say we were more mature, and we were committed to our life with Baba, to loving him and obeying him. And so we knew that it wasn't for our own personal pleasure, and that we were overjoyed at the reunion of spending time again with Baba. And we had jobs and we had money to pay for our trips. Baba gave us that opportunity. So it was all a much anticipated, happy occasion, and it was, very much so. Every time with Baba was so wonderful, and I came to know him as a glorious one.
I have to say that Renee and Leatrice have offered to share more of their experiences with us tomorrow during the discussions. On the board, there's the time and the place will be there.